you need to be active and present on LinkedIn. When you are active, meaning from posting content and commenting, right? And your profile is now being seen and visible in front of your ICP, your ideal client profile, your audience, your potential clients, your current clients, anyone who's looking to be more active. First and foremost, don't overthink it. Start. You need more posts to get out there so that you have data to work with and to fine-tune your message for your audience. If you now are getting likes or comments from people who are in your target audience, that is already an ideal situation to start a conversation with them as opposed to going straight cold.
Our guest today made the leap from venture capital to creator-driven entrepreneurship, and he's reshaping how leaders build influence in the digital age. He's the co-founder and CEO of MAIA Digital, the LinkedIn agency trusted by B2B founders and executives who want their content to drive real trust, real visibility, and real growth. Welcome to the show, Eli Igra Serfaty.
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Nice to meet you officially. I've been excited to do this interview with you, but off camera, we met about 5, maybe 10 minutes ago for the first time. So the audience is tuning in. They're meeting you maybe for the first time if they're not familiar with you. I always like to let everybody know up front so they're not waiting until the end of the episode, but your website, your social media, anything that you want linked in the show notes in the description on YouTube as well. Make sure you send it to me and I'll get it out to everybody so they can click and learn about you and see all the cool things you're doing on LinkedIn. In the intro, Eli, I mentioned you took a leap from VC to now running a leading LinkedIn agency. It's not like you're just doing it in your part-time. Like, this is a successful agency you're running. I want you to share the moment that you realized, hey, content was the highest leverage tool for founders. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but speak on that. And then, like, how did you build a business around that idea?
Great question. So this was about 6 years ago. I started in venture capital, as you mentioned, at a VC called iAngels. I was on the investment team. We were investing in pre-seed to startups, so their first rounds of funding, and we would continue with them all the way throughout different series of stages of growth to IPO. And I think it was during my time there in venture capital with the startups as an investor, where me and my co-founder, Shai, really understood that there's a gap, how LinkedIn is being used primarily with founders, executive startups, but not only, it could also be for business owners and general users on LinkedIn itself, how it's being used globally, and also specifically where we're based here in Israel, which is Startup Nation, with all the startups that are around here. And we said there's needs to be a lot more presence on LinkedIn from the founders themselves, but also from their companies, and really have it LinkedIn at the core center as a channel for them for growth.
When was it? Well, like, put it on timeline. What year was that?
This was already back in 2019, where LinkedIn was actually in a very, very different state to where it is now, almost at the end of 2025. Users, there were about 500 million. Today, we're at 1.3 billion globally.
Yeah.
I think what many people are also surprised about, Mike, do you remember when LinkedIn was founded? What year it was launched?
I remember my first profile I had on there was like 2012 or 11, and it was pretty new. So I'm going to guess maybe 2010.
All right. So this is where a lot of people, and maybe some of our listeners, are surprised as well. 2002, before Facebook,
Whoa.
Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, all of those other platforms.
Well, yeah.
That's when it was launched. But if I give a short history lesson of where it was back then to where it is now and going forward, it mainly started as a hiring platform for job seekers, for executives, and many executives that we speak to today who have been in the industry for 20 plus years. That's how they remember it. But in 2016, another interesting thing happened, which many people are surprised with or maybe don't remember. Microsoft acquired LinkedIn for $26 billion. This was back in 2016, which was back then the biggest social acquisition up until Elon Musk acquired, I think it was about last year or 2 years ago, Twitter, which is now X. After
Right.
that acquisition, around 2019, and then it really accelerated in COVID, was LinkedIn and how it's being used. It's moved from a job seeking platform really to a professional platform that is at the core focus for executives, for companies themselves, for the employees, and really something that can go beyond just hiring. And I'm sure we're going to dive into more of really how LinkedIn can be used beyond hiring itself.
Yeah, I mean, normally, like I said to you off camera, and I'm going to share it with everybody. A lot of times on the show, what we don't do is it's really not a commercial for who the guest is and their brand. Sometimes we really do get into it, and it's a stage where they can absolutely share, and I love when they do. But it's really more like their backstory, what they've learned, the scars they have, so they can come out and then help someone else, so they don't maybe have those same scars, or they limit the damage, right? I always use the simple analogy. It's like someone's walking into a wall, they keep hitting their head into the wall, and then they realize at the end of the wall, there's a door with a handle that they figure out eventually how to use and get through. And it's like, and then they turn around and there's people hitting their head against the wall. They're like, no, just come over here. You can come through the door. Like that's what this show is about, is helping more people get through that door for success. And so we're going to talk about that with you, but I really feel like with LinkedIn, this is the heart of our audience. It's a lot of entrepreneurs. A lot of times they're early stage, they're figuring it out. Many of them are struggling to use it. I admit to myself, a lot of times I post and ghost, and I'm like, I know that's not really going to do anything. And a lot of times it doesn't do anything because I post and ghost. It's about the community element of it. I'll share a little bit of my experience with LinkedIn, and then we'll get right into it too. But I mentioned to you just a moment ago, like 2011, 2012, I started to use it when I was working. I was at Sleep Number. I was a sales rep, and I started winning these awards, and I'm like, well, I got to let people know about this. And it's, I didn't really, maybe I posted a little bit on Facebook at the time, but even that wasn't what it is today, obviously. But I would post it on LinkedIn because it was basically your virtual resume, as everybody knows. So they'd go to your page and they'd just see, where do you work and what have you done and why is it important? So I'd win say highest volume of the month for October of 2012. And I'd put that little, note on there. And it was something I was very proud of. And I ended up getting a job out of it. I'll share that with you. I got recruited from that sales role with Sleep Number at the time. I got recruited by Liberty Mutual Insurance and eventually got the job. I remember, shout out to Kate Rushton. I highly doubt she's going to hear this, but in some funny way that the universe works, if she happens to, she was awesome. And, I ended up getting the gig there and did insurance for a while, but it was because I was putting these things, showing my sales resume, and those people are just headhunting for someone who's good in sales. So that's what it was. And then I've experienced a change. So, okay, post more content. And it kind of was like, this is what I did. This is what I did. And my experience is like, Facebook's more the family vacations, the Christmas photos. Too many times people go there for politics and stuff. I stay out of that. And stuff like that. What I like about LinkedIn, I'll tell you, Eli, is that most people have the understanding to kind of leave that side out of it. And it is more business focused and mindset. But what I want you to share and talk more about is like, okay, you can get on there and post, hey, we just did this podcast together. Like I said, post and ghost and get out of there. That's not going to really have much weight on there. What I want you to talk about is what content right now is working really well, from maybe a founder perspective, but maybe just like a C-level perspective, why they should be using LinkedIn if they're kind of on there, but using it still a little bit like a resume and maybe just a messenger, but they're not using it the way that you see it properly utilized.
Yeah, I think you brought up some really, really great and important points, Mike. So, I myself also am less on Facebook, Instagram, the other platforms. I have accounts, but for a personal reason, I find just like you, the conversations on LinkedIn are much more stimulating. I think LinkedIn is less of a social media platform, like its alternative, and more as a professional network or relationship-based platform. People who are on LinkedIn, especially the C levels and the executives, they're there in their mindset. First and foremost, for their careers and to do business. And the type of content that's being put out there should be uh, not just the updates of what was achieved, which is also important, but really talking about the highs and the lows and the experience and the trends and really unique perspectives, especially the higher you go in the hierarchy, to the executives, to the years of experience, to really also be able to show behind the scenes, to be vulnerable, whether, they're looking to be a thought leadership and they want to be the go-to in their industry. That is the platform for them to be on. You mentioned, Facebook and Instagram, which is more, the vacations and more a visual. Twitter, I think, is very cutthroat in the way that it operates and the type of content that's there. LinkedIn, yes, it's not perfect. Yes, there is also, some AI slop and all of those things. It
Yeah.
has, some elements of a social media platform. But as a whole, if we look at, especially if we're comparing it to other platforms that we can choose to be on and invest our time on, it is the number one trusted platform. It has the least amount of bots and fake profiles. LinkedIn does a lot of work to mitigate it and to keep it authentic and real verified people, which we see it rampant across other platforms, whether it's from fake news or just bots and engagement. Yes, there are also artificial engagements and automations that happens on LinkedIn, but historically and significantly less. I can also say that if there are anyone here listening who perhaps have been offered or have been tried out different automation or third-party tools, for the most part, they are against the terms and services on LinkedIn and they can put your account at risk. LinkedIn really does a good job at trying to mitigate that and create a safe environment for us to interact with real humans.
The word that comes to mind is authentic. It needs to be
Yes.
authentic. That's what seems to resonate. People like that. They appreciate that. And I've seen more recently people that I follow on LinkedIn letting their hair down, if you will, being more authentic, talking about the bruises, the scars that we were talking about earlier in the show, which is why I love to do this, so we can learn from it and grow. But if you don't share any of that, and I'm talking to myself right now, a lot of times it's like, okay, I just want to show up there, be the best version, whatever that might look like for you. But people do resonate and they care about the human at the end of the day. Like, who is Eli? Why do I want to work with him? Why do I enjoy working with him over someone that might do something very similar? And on LinkedIn, people have been a little bit more afraid, I would say, than to post it maybe on Facebook and or on Instagram. It's funny. I kind of, the way I think everybody works, but I'm not going to speak for everybody. I'll just speak for myself. Each platform kind of serves in my life a little different purpose. Like for me, LinkedIn is, I'm going there for mindset, inspiration, to see what my friends are doing, celebrate wins, and maybe meet some new people and some business opportunities. That's like, I'm going there very purpose driven. Twitter is sports for me. Like I check up on trades,
Same here.
mostly football and baseball. I keep up on like all my Buffalo Bills updates. And then on Instagram, it's a little bit like podcasts I like, entrepreneurial content I follow, inspiration, but also fun stuff too, and sports and whatever entertainment. So that's there. And then Facebook, I like almost don't even check anymore because it's become such a thing of like, I love my mom, but my mom's on there. And so my aunts are on there and uncles are on there. It just feels kind of like, we're going to catch up at the Christmas party, like, and it's seeing a lot of like I love seeing my family and stuff post on there. That's great. But it's also because I don't spend a lot of time on there. The algorithm doesn't even really know me that well. It's like, I'm seeing stuff. I'm like, this is so weird. I don't even know why I'm seeing this, or whatever. It's just, to me, the one that's like nice to keep in touch with some friends that I haven't seen since, for years of college and previous jobs and stuff and family. Great. But I'm always like, if I'm going to spend time on social media, let me learn something. Let me download some information from somebody. And LinkedIn is a great way to do that, especially if you're going to go and you want to walk away with something valuable. My kind of negative knock on LinkedIn, and it's not a knock on the platform, it's a knock on it being misused, is how many blatant sales, messages I get where people have no interest in getting to know me. And they're just like, hey, this is what we do. And they give me like 10 bullet points. And then they're like, here's my link and schedule a call. And I try to not be that guy when I'm reaching out too. It's like, hey, I want to see, are you the right person for this conversation? Let's get to know each other more. Here's why I'm even reaching out. Let me know if that's of interest to you. But can you talk a little bit about some best practices to make sure you don't get lumped into that? And maybe they're not bots, they're real people, but they just are not handling a business beginning of a relationship the right way. They're just spewing and vomiting information before they even
Pitch
say, hey,
slapping.
is that what you call it? Pitch
Yeah,
slapping?
yeah, pitch slapping.
They're pitch slapping. So give me your feedback on that.
Yeah. So definitely do not pitch slap, right? People can compare it to cold emails. So sometimes they come and they're just going with the scale to send out as many messages as they can, spray and pray, if you want to call it. That's not the right way. Way that I would recommend and suggest anyone listening to see better results is, first and foremost, when you want to reach out to someone and you come to his profile, read his profile or her profile, go through their activity, go through their experience. The more information, which by the way ties in from the other end of why it's important to optimize your profile and to fill it out. That way someone reaching out to you can already have more context of who you are, and you're helping each other. That way you can see, okay, great, I can really see that this person took the time to know me. So look at their profile, engage with them. Ideally, if this is someone, for example, you, Mike, you have content going up in your profile, you have videos from your previous podcast. That's a great opportunity for someone who perhaps wants to get on your radar. Before they reach out to you, before they even send a connection request, they can start engaging with your content. Maybe leave a like, leave a comment. Now, if someone would leave a comment on your post, you're most likely going to comment back. And then you now
recognize their name. Yeah,
exactly. Now you're going to recognize their profile picture and you're going to recognize the name. And you do that 2 or 3 times, and then you send the connection request. Now that person already feels more familiar with you. Ideally, you've even spoken in the comments. So you've had a virtual conversation, or just that you would have at a networking event in real life. And now this person sees the connection request. We can talk about in a moment, with a note or without a note, and already feels more inclined to at least connect. From there, start the relationship. The first message to that person shouldn't be, hey, this is what I want to sell to you. It should be, hey, Mike, I see, I listened to your last episode with Eli. It was really interesting that you mentioned 1, 2, 3. What are you working on today? Just a general, as if you would see someone in real life. Have a conversation, show that you understand them, see what's going on with them. And then through the conversation, naturally, if there's a pain or a need that you understand that you can bring value to that person, then you can offer it. But once you start really building that relationship, supposed to just going straight to, this is why you need to speak to me, right? We're not receptive to that in real life. So why would we be receptive to that online?
100%. And you got so many more of them. Like in real life, you might be working at a coffee shop, and 1, 2, 3 conversations might spark. Maybe a couple people you recognize from a few years ago, you catch up, and then maybe someone you just happen to be like, hey, I heard you talking to that guy about this, and I want to know more about that. And then something can spark from it, whatever that looks like. But the thing on LinkedIn, I mean, I remember there was a day when I checked every message, and even with my email, if you email me, you would get a response same day, and it would be me. And I just nicely tell someone like, hey, I'm really not interested. Appreciate you reaching out. Like, at least they know there's a pulse at the other end of the email. It's gotten to the point now where I don't do that anymore. If I see it's just like a copy paste bot style, or, what was the term you said earlier?
A pitch slap?
Pitch slap. Yeah. If it's just pitch slapping me, then now I don't even respond, because it's kind of like, the thing that's tough though is trying to be genuine. Like, if you're really reaching out to somebody with a good purpose and you just want to get to message them, it's how do you separate yourself from all of that? I like what you just said, be more engaging and just start a conversation that has nothing to do with maybe the end goal. But I do feel like founders, presidents, VPs, people who are high level, like, C-level, a lot of the decision makers for B2B businesses, which you and I both work with, they see through it. I think most of them see through it. I know I do. Like, I've had people try to do that with me with, I listened to this episode, and it would be like from like 2 years ago or something, so random. Um, but then they would like go into their pitch. So I'm like, they did what you said, but then they also just
A
kind of
switch and
revealed
bait. Yeah,
yeah, it
exactly.
was like they got my attention because they mentioned an episode, but they knew nothing really about it. Like if I asked them more, like, oh, what did you actually really like about that? They're like, So I kind of realized, okay, that's not even real.
Yeah, it's a great point. So, if on the point that you made, let's say you want to reach out to a CEO of a publicly traded company, right? Like, we'll just use them
Hmm.
as an example. Uh, you can listen to the quarterly reports. You can read the investor reports that they have out. Take public information about the company, about the person that you're reaching out to. And yes, there are situations to where, you know, uh, you don't have to do the small talk and be first before you get to an ask or an offer. If you make it very, very personalized, you understand that there's a need and a pain on the other side. If you do the message personalized to that person, and where it doesn't feel like, great, he sent this to everyone else, but he really understands what my business is doing, what the challenges that we have, and he has, or you have, a solution that can really bring value to that person, then great, craft the right message and send it out. But
Hmm.
I still think I want to go back to the point that I mentioned before. Even before doing that, you need to build the relationship through engagement. Ideally, that
Right.
person has content or has something that you can comment so that he can see you. You will see better conversion with the connection requests and with the conversations itself, because
Yeah.
you've already had that interaction.
Yeah, that's great. And I want to go back on what I said too, because it maybe sounded like too black and white, where I said, it doesn't work or people do that. Because some people do that method and they're being genuine. Maybe they really did listen to a mic'd up episode or whatever, your podcast is, and they actually did put in the time and effort. So I don't want to say it's always fake. That's not true. It's just what I've seen so far is very obviously,
For sure.
copy. It's almost like some of them have come in and it's the same exact email, just with a different episode. Sometimes it's like the same agency with a different rep or something. So, you can kind of sniff it out. But something that I'm going to do and be more mindful of is give people a little bit more chain, if you will, a little bit more rope. So, know that they're making an effort and just maybe see someone through to the second step of that conversation. And then from there, if I know it's totally out of the blue, not something I'm interested in, or it's not, I don't want to waste their time either, right? I could just send them a nice message. Hey, appreciate the opportunity to chat, but this isn't something I'm really interested in. And most people, like, obviously 9 out of 10 people or more are going to um, appreciate that. So then they can at least remove you out of their lead, in their CRM. They can put a note, Mike's not interested, don't follow up again. Um, if you just ghost totally, you might get 5 of them. And then you kind
Yeah.
of just hope that they get the hint. So that's talking about reach out and kind of sales navigator. Um, I didn't plan on really getting too far into that. If you want to say one more thing about that, I do
Yeah.
want to move
Yeah.
on to some content conversation, but yeah, wrap that up
Yeah,
as well with
before we
navigator.
move on to the next thing, so I do have one more side that I want to add that can be important. We were talking a lot about the outbound and the outreach, kind of, in the cold sense, to where we're just finding someone and then reaching out to them. But I want to add another important element, which really ties into pretty much every objective that someone could have, whether it's outreach, whether it's searching for a job, whether it's for hiring, whether it's for partnerships. You need to be active and present on LinkedIn. When you are
Yep.
active, meaning from posting content and commenting, right? And your profile is now being seen and visible in front of your ICP, your ideal client profile, your audience, your potential clients, your current clients. Now you have more signals to work off, where it's not necessarily an cold outreach. It could be a lukewarm. What does that mean? Once you are now posting content, if you now are getting likes or comments from people who are in your target audience, that is already a ideal situation to start a conversation with them, as opposed to going straight cold. Meaning, if you see an executive who engaged with your content, essentially raised their hand, they even liked it. Maybe they didn't
Hmm.
comment, but they liked it. That's someone who you should ideally be starting the conversation with first, because you have something. Thank you for
Right.
liking, engaging with my post. Was there something that resonated with you? And then, oh yeah, you were talking about the importance of podcasts. I've been thinking about it, recently.
Mhm.
Great. He just opened up himself, and now you're able to continue there naturally, as opposed to you asking the first question, hey, have you thought about podcasting? So
Out of
really,
nowhere, yeah.
yeah. So look at
You
the
know what's cool about
engagement.
that, Eli, is like what you're saying, and I hate to interrupt you, but just real quick is you're saying basically you use what works naturally in person. That same mindset. You go to a networking meeting, you're not just spewing on someone right out of the gate. You just never met you. It's usually, hey, who are a little bit about you, something they notice, they compliment maybe your jacket or you got really nice shoes on or something, and you're talking about the food and where you came in from and the weather, and then now you get into the real stuff, right? Um, Same thing on LinkedIn, like, like the post, commented, showed interest in. You're doing that little bit of that small talk, hors d'oeuvres conversation, but then, it can lead to the real conversation. But if you just walk around saying, I want to talk to everybody about this, and like you're just being obnoxious, like nobody wants to have that hit them all day long. And that's, I think, I feel a little bit jaded on LinkedIn. So I'm glad we're having this conversation because, like I said, personally, I'm going to give people a little bit more of my time and attention just to see maybe there are some genuine conversations I'm missing out on because I put such a guard up. And I hope people tuning in right now would do the same thing. Maybe you totally threw up 100% guard and you're not listening to any inbox messages. See, there are some good ones, I'm sure, in there. So a good reminder there. And as you said, make sure you're really warming up the conversation. But again, I apologize for interrupting. That
No,
visual
no,
came to me of being at like
yeah,
a
yeah.
mixer,
Yeah, yeah, it's
you
a really
know?
important point. And on that note, and then we can move on to the next thing. So beyond the engagement that you're looking at, I see a common thing that many people overlook and miss is checking out their profile views, especially Mike, when we're talking about executives and C levels who typically don't always engage with the content that they're reading. Meaning, if they're not leaving a like or a comment on your post, you could be sitting there thinking, well, no one saw my post and no one got value from it because you don't have a signal on the other end to say this person saw it. But if you look at your profile views and then you see the CEO of X company that you want to speak to, it's like, hey, wait, he came in from somewhere. Someone who views your profile didn't
Mhm.
accidentally end up on your profile. They either searched for you, you appeared in a search, they saw a comment, they saw a post, and they actively decided to click on your name and click on your profile. And when they
Yeah, to
come
go
in
to that
there,
next level.
exactly, that's another indication of, hey, this person came in for something. Maybe it was my
Mhm.
last post talking about X that could be relevant to him. That's also another person that you should prioritize reaching out to, as opposed to a profile that appeared on Sales Navigator or any of the searches that you did.
Yeah,
So I think
just
that's
ice
also
cold.
really important to know. Yeah.
Great information. I want to talk about a lot of times people, they're getting started or they already know they need to be more active on LinkedIn. So it feels like it's an uplift. Maybe they have the intern do it. They have someone who's like a content, planner or doing management. Hey, can you just take access to my account and make sure we're posting 3 times a week, whatever it looks like, 5 times a week. And so that's going to move the needle a little bit, but that's not even what we're talking about because there's no authentic side to that. And if they're just having people or even AI now reply to posts and comments and it's just real generic, like that's not moving the needle. It might help a little bit because people will see your name. But if they sniff that out as not being genuine too, now you're really kind of shooting yourself in the foot. But I will say, um, there's good ways of doing everything, right? So what I just said, like if you do it the right way, it works. I want to talk to people who are willing now to put a little bit more effort into it and they want to post and create content that actually does move people and it's going to make a difference. And they're finally confident enough to get out there. What are some things that you see working like with your clients? Or maybe you can share a story about someone who was like turtle shell in the beginning and now it's like you can't get them to stop talking and posting.
Awesome. First of all, I think this is important to anyone who's looking to be more active, first and foremost, don't overthink it. Start. You need more posts to get out there so that you have data to work with and to fine tune your message for your audience. What resonates with your audience, Mike, is different with my audience and different from all the other thousands of listeners who are here. You need to see what works and speaks to them. General sense, you should be sharing personal things, could be from previous things in your career, could be current things, could be team challenges, could be with clients, could be wins, could be losses, could be general trends. The core of it should be, what value can I give to one person? You know, I think you mentioned this in the beginning of the episode or when we were talking prior to it, is really think if one person gets value from it, that's a huge win. And I love that because I'm the same way. I actually just spoke about it with someone today. I know that there are some posts where they don't look overwhelming, impressive likes or comments or even impression wise. But I know that at the other end, there's probably at least one person who is getting value from what's being said. So when you're writing,
not everything's
the content,
a grand slam either. Like if you post enough, like you shouldn't everyone that it's unlikely that no baseball player goes up and hits.
Yeah, you have a single, you have a double, you have you have that general cycle until you get that home
swing and get on base. Yeah,
exactly.
That's a good analogy right there. But also something you just said too is like people can get so down about numbers, and I wanted to chime in on that too because as a podcaster and as someone who launches business podcasts for B2Bs and stuff like that, I see a lot of businesses get discouraged in the beginning when they're like, oh, I only had like 93 downloads. I'm like, you realize like if tonight you threw a seminar and you were the thought leader on stage and we were in a small little venue that we can pull off and make it happen in, a short notice, and it's a 200 seat place and 93 people sat down to hear you tonight. Wouldn't you feel pretty cool? That'd be great, right? Maybe we can get 200 in there when we promote it with a little more lead time. Yeah, that'd be great. If I could pack a 200, you're doing it. You're just doing it online. So you don't get to see the people, but they're showing up and hearing you.
I am so with you. And I love that example. So I'm going to take it now to another, what people commonly get their heads down on LinkedIn and use the same example because I think it really, really drives the point home. The state of the algorithm today, compared to what it was historically, every member today is seeing much less impressions that they're getting on their posts. And that gets a lot of people down. They're saying, oh, I'm only getting 1,000 impressions or 2,000. I used to get 10 or 20,000, or other people are getting way more than me. 1,000 doesn't seem like a lot to me. And everyone is seeing that from the smaller accounts to the larger accounts. So let's say it used to be 20,000, now it's 2,000. But part of that change, LinkedIn has said, you will get less vanity metrics, but we are making sure that your posts are being seen by the right people. So instead of 20,000 general, more 2,000. And just like you said, Mike, like sometimes why do we get our heads down over 500 impressions or 1,000 impressions? Because we compare ourselves to the influencers or maybe other ones who seem like they have much more. But like you said, with the 200 people, in the audience, 1,000 people is a lot. We would all be raving if we had a room with 1,000 people that saw and heard our message. And that's exactly why.
How about this though, Eli? Like you just said too, not only like 1,000 people would be great in a nice arena or, whatever, a small theater that would pack the place. Right. And then some. We don't just want like 200 butts in the seats for our event. You just said it. You might be getting smaller numbers, but let's go back to that 93 example. Imagine if it's 93 qualified people who are interested, not just in any podcast, but business, mindset, coaching, whatever the thing is that you're doing. You're a thought leader and you got 93 interested people. Wouldn't you rather have that in your audience than 1,000 people that got yanked off the street, thrown into the theater, said you're forced to sit here for 90 minutes and listen to Eli talk? Like they're just going to be checking their phones, rolling their eyes. So 93 committed people that are interested in you. Feel good about it. And then it will scale. It will grow when you continue to do the right things. And it's no surprise on LinkedIn when I see people who are I'm like, wow, they got like, 500 likes on this or people engaging on this. And then I look at it and I read it. I'm like, whoa, they just shared like this life moment. This is real. They're vulnerable and they're doing really well. And like, it's not just authentic, but there's real value here and a lesson learned. and it makes sense. And then someone may post something that's just a little bit, hey, I was at this event, them and a buddy getting coffee. Like I remember I used to do those years ago where it's like every time I got coffee with someone, I'd be like, hey, whatever. And we were both happy to like self-promote, cross promote, but that might get, 12 or 5 or something, but someone really pouring their heart. So that's what I'm talking about with that authentic feeling. So I'd like, we have a couple minutes together. I'd love to kind of hit on, in your experience, because you're an expert in this now, from the writing stage, like the ideation of writing all the way to distribution, and then, okay, this is good, I'm going to put it out as content. Do you feel like there's a little bit of a formula that works, or is it different for every post?
I would say so. First of all, mix with different formats that the posts have. So you have text posts, you have text with images, you have carousels, which could be a slideshow, that you can do on Canva and then kind of have a slide through. Videos. So videos, there's up and downs. LinkedIn had big promises for it, but in reality, it's less than what people anticipated. But I think also with AI going forward, video is also important to be able to connect with your audience, for them to see past the text itself and to really hear someone or see someone. So use different formats, see what's working better with your audience. For the most part, put more effort into text posts. Those are ones that generally perform. Text with an image, if it has
What's
people
crazy,
in it.
because on those other ones, more text doesn't, like on Facebook or Instagram, it's more video, and even X, like everyone, I've seen people comment, I'm not going to read all that. Like someone writes a nice, like really solid follow-up to someone's thought, and literally people will be like, I'm not going to read all that. And it's like 4 sentences. It's like, that's too much. But on LinkedIn, I notice a lot of the longer posts do well because they're thought out and they're heartfelt.
Yes. I think that's a great point and a main difference from other platforms. So where people on LinkedIn are looking, they're not afraid. People always ask me, should I do short? Should I do long? What, are people really going to read it? Yes. People are here to learn. They're usually also more complex things that you're trying to get across, where yet you need more words to do it. Now, it has to be concise. It should be with value and not just fluff, making it
Interesting,
long
yeah,
because of that.
in driving.
But if it's a complicated point, or there are a lot of things that you need to get across, use the 3,000 characters that LinkedIn allows you. And I think that's, a really good point across from the other ones, to where people are reading it. The same goes, by the way, for your profile. You should be adding more context to your profile for the algorithm, and also for the people that are coming to learn more about you. If it's not interesting, they'll continue scrolling on with their day. So back to the best practices for the post itself. We spoke about the formats. The hook is, the first 3 lines are what you see before it says see more. That's where you need someone to understand, kind of hook them in from the image or from the text of, hey, stop your scroll, click see more, which is also a click of intent to LinkedIn saying, hey, this post got this person to stop. It is more interesting. When you're writing,
so that is a driver for them to help you get more impressions. If someone clicks on the see more button, then LinkedIn's going to say, let's show this to more people. That's
exactly. So you
cool.
have the hook. After the hook, which is kind of like the preview of the post itself, you have the meat, right? The main part of the post itself, to where here it's important. A lot of people get this wrong. Spacing out the text. Don't do a big one chunky paragraph that could be very difficult to see on your mobile or even on your desktop. Use sentences, some white space in between them. Space it out. Make it easier for the person to read it. You can use bullet points. You can have lightly use emojis. Don't overuse it, especially since many of the LLMs, ChatGPT and Claude, overuse it. And that's like, hey, he's using AI. Subtly drop 1, 2, or 3, especially if you're using
I've used, I think pretty much everybody's using it now, but I've done that before too. And then you kind of humanize it. You go back and change it a little bit. To me, it's like original thought comes from the creator. Use ChatGPT to help you, like you just said, bullet point it, clean it up. Yeah, a lot of times I say just make this sound smoother, because I have this, I was raised by Italian parents that, didn't speak the greatest, especially my dad didn't speak, came over, all that stuff. So a lot of times, even though I was born and raised in America, my tongue sometimes gets a little bit crossed up. And so I'll just ask ChatGPT, make this read smoother, right? And it does, but then I'll put all these like fancy and cute, emojis, and I'm like, we don't need all that. Like, I've done that sometimes. Sometimes I'll do it for a little bit extra emphasis, but then it gets overused. I will say one more thought follow up on that is um, like you said, it's got the hook, and it's you know a lot of the people on LinkedIn. I hope this doesn't sound pompous, but it's going to be a lot of book readers. It's going to be a lot of thinkers, people who are constantly. So a little bit extra text isn't going to be something they're afraid of, like you said. But once it gets to that meat and potatoes, it's like, okay, there has to be a reward for them reading all that.
Exactly. And then at the end, it's a call to action, a CTA, where you can either
Mhm.
ask a question where you want people to engage. You want people to ideally leave comments. Comments on your posts are the biggest driver and signal to LinkedIn that this post
Mhm.
is relevant, is interesting, and should be pushed to more people on the platform. And when people comment on your post, make sure you mentioned it before, Mike. Don't post and ghost. Respond, like, and comment back to the person. Why? Because it's the right thing to do and to acknowledge his time that he left a comment for you. And it also
Mhm.
helps the algorithm, get, if you have 10 posts from other people, if you respond to each one, your post now has 20 comments, and that can continue to push it with the algorithm. So it could be a call to action of a question, or it could be more business driven of, your website, or book a call, or download this ebook, or look at this report that we put together. So driving someone, to a call to action or a call to engage, depending on, what type of question you have at the end.
Man, this was like literally, I think this word gets overused now, but masterclass, you have a lot of people say, this is a masterclass. And sometimes it's like, maybe you overdid it a little bit with that. But I really feel like this conversation right here, the last 50 minutes or so, or less now, like you've hit on a lot of things that if people do just a couple of these, two, three, a handful of some of these ideas that we just talked about, and they consistently do them, like put it in your calendar and spend 15 minutes a day doing these are like big needle movers. Like over time, 2026 can be the year that they go from just kind of farting around on LinkedIn to this thing is like one of their leading, lead gen and sales gen. And like, yeah, this can really work. And obviously I'm someone who believes if I see it works for one person, I know it can work for me. It can work for a lot. So don't be the person who's on there like, why, what, woe is me? Why it's not working for me? It's like, it can work. You just haven't figured it out yet. So be excited about that. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, if I can, I want to be really practical for all of our listeners that have made it till the end and saying, well, yeah, you know what? I'll give LinkedIn a try in 2026. You mentioned putting it
Mhm.
in your calendar. So I kind of want to give like a daily schedule or a weekly schedule that someone can have in his mind. What are the main things that he should be doing on LinkedIn from a personal level? You need about 30 minutes to an hour a day. Put it in your calendar, 15-minute slots, 30-minute slots, whatever it is, but see it in your calendar. You can't do it, move it over. You should be adding people every day. 20 people. You should be finding customers, prospects, friends, colleagues, people, or larger accounts. Add 20 people a day. You should be commenting 5, 10, 15 comments a day. People in your network, outside of your network, smaller, larger audiences. Find the ones that through comments, LinkedIn is now showing impressions on comments themselves. So sometimes comments will even perform better than posts. Comments
Yeah.
can also get you in front of audiences that are outside of your network. So you have outreach, you have connection requests every day, you have posts, commenting every day. Posting should be at least once a week, ideally 2 to 3. You don't need to do 5 days, but at least once a week, and sending DMs. Right? Ideally, we spoke about it before, off of engagement, off of profile views, but even just checking in with people. When you interact with people in your DMs, LinkedIn will then continue to show your content for the following weeks after, because it's like, hey, they just interacted. Let's continue to surface each other in front of one another. So I really think if someone would do those things across 90 days to 120 days, this isn't something that's going to
Yeah.
happen overnight or a month. It's a long-term play, which is also
Commit to
varies
it
from
for
the
3
other.
months minimum and you're going
Exactly.
to see results. Yeah.
Exactly. If you commit to it for
Eli, what
three
you're
months
telling
and
him
more.
is don't go to the party and be a wallflower. Go to the
Exactly.
networking event with the intent to meet 3 to 5 people at that event per day. Meet a handful of people. If you're going to put the time and effort to show up, show up. and be someone who's going to connect and try to be more interested than interesting. I think it's a great formula. I'm going to take a lot of what you said
We
today and apply it
we call
to
it
myself.
ROL, the return on LinkedIn. The time, the money, the resources that you put into LinkedIn long term will be ROL positive.
Mhm.
It's really the life changing opportunities that will come your way from investing your time into this platform.
Yeah.
There aren't things just for today; it's for the rest of your career.
Yeah, and I think you just don't get that same value, especially from a business sense on those other platforms. They're good. You can get obviously you can run ads, you can do things more direct marketing, but as far as like building the relationships with those people that really matter to you and your business and your circle, LinkedIn is the perfect place to do it. So why not utilize it properly? It's a good reminder for me to be more active there as well. Um, I'm going to give some love real quick. I know we're running out of time here. Giving love to Social Chameleon. That is my agency that's producing this podcast and many other B2B podcasts, businesses, entrepreneurs, keynote speakers, authors. We love working with you. Check us out at socialchameleon.us. You press record, we handle the rest. It's podcasting done for you. And now we also do guest sourcing too, because a lot of times people have a great podcast and are like, I don't know who to have on or how it's going to move the needle with ROI. We help you with guest sourcing and booking. We're recording this on riverside.fm. Eli, where are you right now? We didn't even talk about that. Where you're
I'm based
located.
outside of Tel Aviv in Israel.
Okay, you're in Israel. I'm in Philadelphia, PA here in the States. We're doing this on Riverside, high quality audio and video, thanks to our friends over at riverside.fm. And it's being recorded so you can listen to it on Apple, Spotify, iHeart, and all the amazing audio players out there and podcast apps through libsyn.com, libsyn.com. Eli, I told you off camera, I'm going to try to get you some lightning round. So the purpose of this is try to just whatever pops in your head, let's rip through it. We got like 2 minutes. I think we can do it. What book, podcast, or movie has had the biggest impact on your life?
Ooh, that's a good one. 0 to 1. It was a book that I read for entrepreneurship. So anyone thinking about, VC, it's by Peter Thiel.
Okay.
Really
We'll link it. We're going to link it in the show notes. So cool. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, maybe it's an entrepreneur, anybody, who would it be and why?
Elon Musk. Lots of controversy, lots of innovation, just to see how he does it all and, a bunch of different companies at the same time.
I think I've asked this question like 5 to 10 times now, and he's like a 30 to 40% hit for the answer.
So then maybe you should
compelling.
just put together a group meeting for everyone between all the people that brought it up.
That's a good idea. There you go. Talking about community. Favorite activity to unwind?
Cooking and barbecuing. Love it. Love food, big foodie. Give me some steaks on a barbecue, and that's great.
That's all you need to be happy. This might connect to that. What's your greatest guilty pleasure?
Eating, restaurants, fine dining. Yeah.
That's not a bad one. All right. We're going to end on some positivity here. The best piece of advice that you've ever received, something that really hit you and changed you into the person you are today.
Believe in yourself. If you go all in on yourself, I think that was a big driver that got me to leave venture capital. That was an incredible world that I loved and maybe more, secure, to go start my business, have this agency, and work with incredible people. There were lots of doubts along the way, but time after time, if you believe that it's right and you do it with the right people, you're going to come out on top.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's the first ingredient you really need to get started, right? Is self-belief, believe in yourself. It's not always as easy. A lot of people I talk to, the key term that's probably out of 270 plus episodes, half of them, I'm sure, talked about imposter syndrome. So that's definitely something that a lot of people are dealing with. Believe in yourself, so big. I want to say a lot of times I come into these interviews, I have a little bit of a roadmap of what I expected. And even though we stayed very much on the road today, and you were a great podcast guest for that reason, I'm walking away lit up with even more information, more insights than I expected to get. So you over delivered today on my expectations. So Eli, I loved having you on the show. We're going to wrap up. Thank you to everybody who's tuned into the show. If you love this kind of content, this kind of episode, I always forget to ask for it, but if we don't ask, people may not do it. You can like this episode, especially if you're tuning in on YouTube, like it, and then make sure you subscribe, because I'm looking at my numbers. I'm seeing we're getting a lot of views, but a lot of people are new and unsubscribed, which is great. But if you subscribe, turn your notifications on, you'll get more great episodes just like this one. Eli, thank you so much for being on the show. I'm going to leave everybody with a couple words of wisdom here. Be great, be grateful, and God bless. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you, Mike.